Most haunted places warn you to stay away. But Blackridge House was different. It didn't whisper, "Leave." It whispered your name. People in the village used to say the house wasn't abandoned. It was waiting for someone curious enough, or foolish enough, to open its doors again. And when Ethan first heard the stories, he didn't feel fear. He felt something else. Something colder, something deeper. Like the house had reached across the forest and tapped gently on the inside of his mind. Some say every cursed place has an awakening moment. The second a living soul steps close enough for it to breathe again. For Blackridge House, that moment came the night Ethan touched its rusted gate. He had no idea that the house wasn't the only thing that had just awakened, and that once he crossed the threshold, the shadows inside would never let him walk out unchanged. Because the truth was simple. Blackridge House didn't haunt people. It chose them. And that night, it chose Ethan. In a quiet rural town surrounded by dense forests and endless fields, there stood an abandoned mansion everyone knew as Blackridge House. For decades, villagers whispered about a strange presence lurking inside, shadows that moved without a source, footsteps echoing in empty halls, and a faint blue glow behind boarded windows, even though no electricity had run through the place for more than 20 years. But rumors were never enough to stop curiosity. And for Ethan, a 19-year-old boy fascinated by mysteries, the mansion felt less like a warning and more like an open invitation. Ethan, tall with wavy brown hair and sharp green eyes, had spent years studying every disappearance linked to the house. But he wasn't going in alone. His best friend Liam, shorter with straight black hair and soft hazel eyes, was the cautious one, yet loyal enough to follow Ethan anywhere, even into darkness. That night was unusually cold, a thick fog crawling across the ground like it wanted to swallow the light. When the boys reached the iron gate, it creaked open by itself. Liam froze. "Please tell me the wind did that." Ethan ignored him and stepped through. The mansion towered above them, its windows hollow like empty eye sockets, and the front door, massive and carved with strange symbols, was slightly open. A slow, rhythmic sound echoed from inside, like an old heartbeat coming from the dark. Ethan pushed the door, and it groaned loudly as a wave of icy air swept past them. The mansion was pitch black except for a faint blue glow at the end of the hallway. Dust drifted through the beam of their flashlight, and cobwebs draped the corners like curtains. But the deeper they walked, the more they felt watched. On the walls hung portraits of the former owners, tall, pale figures with hollow black eyes. Liam leaned closer and whispered, "Ethan, their eyes, they're moving." When Ethan looked, he wished he hadn't. The painted eyes were following them, slowly, hungrily. Suddenly the blue light flickered, and a soft, broken sob echoed from somewhere in the mansion. Liam clung to Ethan's arm. "Let's leave, please." But Ethan pressed forward until they reached a grand dining hall. The long table was covered in dust, except for a single porcelain teacup, perfectly clean. Beside it lay a small leather diary. Ethan opened it and found frantic handwriting. "The house is alive. It feeds on fear. It mimics voices. If you hear your own voice calling, don't follow it." The last page repeated one sentence over and over. "She is awake now." A sharp crack echoed from upstairs, followed by slow, dragging footsteps. Heavy, uneven, as if something enormous was forcing itself across the floorboards. The ceiling trembled above them. Dust showered down. Then silence, the kind that presses painfully against the ears. Liam whispered, shaking, "We have to leave." He turned to the door and found it completely closed, though neither had heard it shut. A voice whispered behind him. Because it didn't. They spun around. No one. But the whisper came again, bouncing from every corner. The temperature dropped instantly, their breath turning to mist. Then the blue light vanished, plunging them into absolute darkness. Something moved in that darkness, too close. "Run!" Ethan shouted. They bolted through the shifting corridors. The mansion was changing, doors appearing where there were none, hallways stretching unnaturally long. Something chased them, its footsteps fast, but wrong, like cracking bones with every step. They reached the main staircase. At the top stood a tall shadow figure, thin, elongated limbs, head tilted at an impossible angle. It pointed at them, and the entire mansion groaned like a living creature. Windows slammed shut. Walls pulsed like a heartbeat. Slowly, the figure descended the stairs. Ethan whispered, "Don't look at its face." But fear overtook Liam, and he glanced up. He screamed. The creature's face was shifting, eyes appearing and dissolving, mouths forming silent screams, features melting like wax. Ethan dragged him toward the kitchen as cabinets swung open violently, as if trying to grab them. They reached the back door, only for it to slam shut. Then Liam's voice echoed behind them, though Liam himself was right there. "Ethan, come upstairs. I found something." Liam's eyes widened in horror. "That's not me." Silence fell suddenly. Ethan turned, and Liam was gone. "Liam." No answer. A faint whimper came from a narrow hallway he didn't recognize. At the end, a pale blue light pulsed like a heartbeat. Ethan stepped inside the room and froze. Liam hung suspended in a glowing cocoon of blue light, his face twisted with terror. The creature stood beside him, staring directly into Ethan's soul. It spoke using Ethan's own voice. "Stay." The cocoon cracked with a violent burst of energy, throwing Ethan across the room. The walls tightened around him as the creature lunged. Ethan grabbed a broken wooden beam and swung with all his strength. The monster shrieked, twisted, and burst into dust. The cocoon shattered. Liam fell to the floor. Ethan pulled him up, and together they ran as the mansion collapsed, folding inward like it was devouring itself. They burst through a side door and fled into the forest as the house sank into the ground. Liam whispered, trembling, "Let's never talk about this." Ethan nodded, but from deep within the woods, a low whisper answered, "I am still awake." Ethan realized the mansion wasn't destroyed, only moved, waiting for its next curious soul. The night after the mansion collapsed, Ethan couldn't sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the creature's melting face, the twisting hallways, the shifting shadows. But what haunted him most was the final whisper from the forest. It kept repeating in his mind like a curse, "I am still awake." He tried to convince himself it was only his imagination, but the fear felt too real, too alive. Liam, traumatized and shaken, refused to leave his house. He hadn't spoken more than a few words since they escaped. That evening, Ethan received a message from Liam's number. Just 2 words, "Help me." Ethan rushed to Liam's house, heart pounding, only to find the lights off and the door cracked open. The moment he stepped inside, the thick, icy air hit him, too familiar to be normal. "Liam." His voice echoed unnaturally, stretching longer than it should, like the house was repeating it. He walked deeper into the living room, only to notice something horrifying. Claw marks, long, deep ones, scratched into the walls. The television flickered on by itself, showing static, then a blurry figure standing completely still. Ethan stepped closer. The figure turned its head slowly, too slowly, and though the image was distorted, Ethan recognized the posture. It was Liam, or something wearing his shape. The TV cut to black. A whisper crawled out from behind Ethan, close enough that he felt breath on his neck. "I moved." He spun around, but the room was empty. Then upstairs, a loud thud shook the house. Ethan hesitated, but forced himself up the stairs. At the end of the hallway, Liam's bedroom door was slightly open, a faint blue glow spilling out, exactly like the cocoon he had seen in the mansion. Ethan swallowed hard and stepped inside. Inside Liam's room, the glow pulsed faintly like a dying heartbeat. Papers were scattered, furniture overturned, and deep cracks spread across the ceiling. And there, in the center of the room, hung another blue cocoon, smaller, flickering, unstable. But this time, the figure inside wasn't Liam. It was a girl. Her long black hair floated weightlessly, eyes closed, face peaceful, yet impossibly pale. Ethan had never seen her before. As he approached, her eyes snapped open, pure white, no pupils. The cocoon cracked violently. Ethan stumbled back just as her body dropped to the floor, unmoving. For a moment, there was silence. Then her body twisted with a sickening snap. Her limbs bent backward, her spine contorted, and she rose on all fours like a broken puppet being forced to move. Her head rotated toward Ethan, her jaw unhinged wider than any human jaw should. From her throat came a layered whisper, multiple voices speaking at once. She is awake. The temperature dropped instantly. Frost crawled across the floor. The girl's body began dragging itself toward Ethan at rapid, unnatural angles. Ethan grabbed a lamp and swung it, shattering it across her back. She shrieked, a sound so sharp it felt like knives in his ears, and dissolved into a swirl of blue dust that shot out the window like escaping smoke. Ethan gasped for air, heart hammering. "Where's Liam?" The only answer was a whisper behind him, his own voice this time. "He's with me." Ethan froze. The room went dark. The house groaned like something massive was shifting beneath it. The whisper spoke again, from the ceiling. "You opened the door, and now she walks." Ethan sprinted out of Liam's house, terrified the creature, or the girl, might return. But as he stepped outside, he saw something that made his blood freeze. Every house on the street had their lights flickering in the exact same rhythm. On, off, like a coded signal. And from the forest behind the neighborhood came singing. A woman's voice. Soft, sweet, wrong, like a lullaby slowed down and drowned in water. Ethan followed the sound toward the tree-line, compelled by some invisible force. The deeper he went, the colder it became. Branches twisted like fingers reaching for him. The fog thickened, glowing faintly blue from an unknown source. Then he saw her, a tall woman standing in the center of the clearing. Her hair was long and floating as if underwater. Her dress was torn and soaked in shadows. And her face, oh God, her face was smooth, featureless, like untouched clay. No eyes, no mouth, nothing. Yet she spoke. Her voice came from everywhere at once. "You freed me from the house. You shattered my walls. Now I walk the world again." Ethan stepped back, shaking. "What do you want?" The faceless woman tilted her head in a disturbingly slow motion. "A door must remain open, or another must take its place. Your friend understood that." She reached out a long, skeletal hand, and behind her, the shadows shifted, revealing Liam. Suspended in the air, eyes wide, mouth sewn shut, still alive. The woman whispered, "Choose, Ethan. Walk with me, or he stays forever."